Our question of the day comes from Sarah in Virginia. Here's what Sarah's asking. I'm a 23-year-old that graduated college in May of 2022, and I got a job at a nonprofit making $45K a year. I live with my parents and plan on staying there until I can buy a home. I have no debt, no bills, and have an inheritance of $75,000 sitting in a savings account doing nothing. My parents are very against credit cards and truly believe cash is king. I agree, but I also think I should get a credit card to build credit and get cash back, points, etc. I'm wondering if you have any advice on what to do with the inheritance that's sitting there, the money that I'm making, and if I should get a credit card. I would love to invest in real estate, but would love to hear from you first.
Well, Sarah, thanks for the question. It sounds like you got a lot going on, a lot of different questions. Let's tackle the first numero uno question, what to do with this $75K. Hey, if it's me, you have no debt. I'm making sure that I've got 3 to 6 months of expenses, right, George? That's thing one. My guess is maybe she does if she's been living at home. But if she doesn't,
if you don't have other savings, we need to take a portion of that and allocate it to an emergency fund.
Correct. And then if that's the case, or let's say you already had your savings, I'm looking at a down payment, George. I'm trying to get up out of the parents' basement. Not to say that you're living in the basement. I'm just saying I'm trying to get out of my parents' house at this point and see about life on my own. And maybe that's an apartment at first because, you know, if you have no debt and you have no credit history, like George made a very good point earlier about making sure that you've established credit history with your parents as renters, so to speak, and that you're actually paying rent to your parents. So when it's time to get a mortgage, they can actually look at those payment histories as a way to do some manual underwriting. I'll let George explain that, but that's first thing that I'm thinking is let me get out of my parents' house. And so George, why don't you talk to that real estate question a little bit?
As far as investing? The manual underwriting.
Yeah, the underwriting.
So part of your question is, do I get the credit card to build a credit and get the cash back? You don't need to play that game at all. Jade and I have both gotten mortgages with no credit history, no credit score, because once we got out of debt, the credit score disappears into the abyss.
That's right.
And
it becomes
you don't miss it.
Zero.
And so you go, well,
non-determinable.
What does the lender do then? Well, they do what's called a no-score loan, manual underwriting. A lot of lenders actually do this. You just have to do your research. And our friends at Churchill Mortgage have been doing this forever. And here's what you want to do. Get in touch with them to figure out what this looks like for you living at home. You need to have some kind of rental history. That's a fact, which means you need to have paid your parents a sum of money consistently around the same time every single month for 1 year.
And it needs to be a sum that makes sense. For instance, before Sam and I bought our first house, we did rent from his mom. She owned a property. We rented, but we paid a reasonable rent. I think she rented to us at cost. But every month we wrote her a check for $1,200. And so we were able to use that as our rental history. And so that was able to work for us. Zero credit score.
And there may be other history of payments they want to look at, like your cell phone bill. So you said you have no bills. I would just get more clarity on that so that you're not shocked a year from now. But if you are going to be buying a home, I'd have a clear timeline. I wouldn't just continue living at home with mom and dad for the foreseeable future until you feel like it. I would say, hey, 1 year from now, my goal is to move out. I want to start making payments to you guys so I have rental history and I have some skin in the game, start paying some bills around here. And then 1 year from now, I'm going to continue saving. That inheritance can go sit in a high-yield savings account because you've got a short-term goal. So we don't want to invest this money into the market when we need this money in the next few years.
She's also talking about investing in real estate, George.
There's a lot of aspiring real estate investors out there in their 20s, and I love that, and we love real estate around here, but there's a time and place for it, and it is once you've got a primary residence paid off, you're in baby step 7, no debt in the world, then save up and pay cash for real estate.
Then and only then.
And it reduces risk, it increases your cash flow, which is what it's all about, right?
Facts.
Reduces your stress from being a landlord at 23 while trying to get out there as an adult. There's a lot going on in your life, and you don't need to be a real estate investor tomorrow.
Yeah, let's take it one thing at a time.
You can build wealth without that. And so I would just focus on increasing your income. And it sounds like you love the nonprofit space. That's great if you want to stay there. If you want to move to the private sector, you might double your income depending on what you're doing. And then the credit cards, you just simply don't need. You've survived this long without them, and you're doing great. You're doing so much better than most people who have credit cards. And so what does that tell you about wealth building? Credit cards aren't a part of the game.
They're not a part of it.
There you go. Well, thanks for the question, Sarah. There's a lot packed in there, but you're thinking about the right things. And I have a lot of faith in Sarah that she's going to build wealth quickly at this age.